Podcast.
Worship Ministry Catalyst is a resource for all worship leaders and team members serving in the local church.
So take a seat at the table and join the conversation as we discuss all things worship, from team dynamics to technology and song selection.
And now it's time for the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to, nice fade. That was a nice fade in. That was cool. Welcome to episode 228, I think is what we decided this number is.
228.
Worship Ministry, 228 of the Worship Ministry Catalyst podcast. It'll be a shorter episode. That's on my side. I have to duck out in about 20 minutes. But we are grateful you're joining us. And if you're just looking for something to get you from here over to Winco and back, this should be about the right length of an episode for you.
Might not get you through the line, but it might get you there on the drive.
It just, I have found that as things are starting to open up again here in Oregon, that there is traffic again, and people seem to have forgotten how to drive. Or at least they're a little rough around the edges. What's your experience on that?
I don't think people ever knew how to drive, but that's
fair enough. Yeah,
that's my general assumption. Yeah, I was on the freeway last night, and if you know me, one of my pet peeves is people driving slow in the far left passing lane. When you've got a 3-lane freeway and you're going slow in the far left lane, it just drives me insane. For one, I like to go fast in that lane, and for two, if you're in that lane and there are no cars in front of you and no cars beside you, and you're going less than the speed limit, I really think that there should be a specific fine that you should be able to take a picture and send that in, and they get this $12,000 fine because it's so irritating to me. But yeah, so last night on the freeway, I just had one of those guy driving, I don't know, probably not even paying attention, going 5 miles under the speed limit, miles of cars behind him, and no reason for him to be in the left lane except that he's a lazy, inconsiderate driver. But that's just me being a little bit. It feels
a bit like you're projecting some intent on this individual. I'm just throwing that out there.
Could be.
We were driving back from Yakima yesterday, and as we were coming into just kind of past Gresham, for those of you who are familiar with the Portland area kind of geography, was in the left lane going 45 in the 60, and there was a group of us going, what is happening here? Right. And then better go around. And then just a little migration to the right and around, and you have no idea. And I do find myself doing things like, all right, who's driving? Which stereotype do I get to put the checkbox on and say, right. Oh, look, I knew it. And that, of course, I find very convicting in myself. Right. Oh, I'm a jerk. I'm a jerk, too. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I shouldn't do those things, but still, I'm in a hurry. I want to go home, so I do. Get out of my way. Let me drive. If you want to cruise and just, not pay attention to the world around you, I have no problem with that. Get in the middle lane, and don't slow down everyone else.
Yeah, I find my capacity to tolerate that is in direct relation to my urgency. Mm-hmm. If I'm trying to get someplace at a specific time, I get really agitated. If I'm not in a big hurry, I'm much more tolerant. I'm like, okay, come on, buddy. But I don't get mad. There are times when I get so agitated that I'm almost punching the windshield of my own car. Like, let's go. But anyway, that is not what I intended to talk about today.
It's my fault. I took us down that road.
No, that's all right. No, the thing that I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks is that we are just on the brink of summer.
Yep.
Today doesn't feel very much like summer, but it's been feeling like summer. The kids are going to be, however they're being schooled right now, will be off school. Right. And I find that typically that's when there's a dip in church attendance. And also, one church I was at, we actually just stopped the worship team during the summer, and we just did special music. So we'd have people sign up, and they would come in and they would do a song, but otherwise it was like it'd be like an opening hymn, special music, closing hymn, and just kind of ramp down because it was hard to get people to come in on a consistent basis for that stuff. Is that kind of the way you normally see things go, or am I unique in that?
At our church now, there's not so much of a exodus, I guess, especially at least in our worship volunteers. Usually not more than normal. Of course, we're pretty small, so it's probably not as drastic as it would be in other churches. Our church, I would say, also not as maybe affluent as other churches, so some of our people just don't have the means to take big summer trips and do a lot of that. Now we do have people. We do have some who have already been in and out a lot once things barely started getting warm, So
yeah.
There's definitely that group, but at other churches, it was a huge problem. And I'd start sending out emails and communications, early May, maybe even earlier than that sometimes, with the summer schedule, and I'd send out the whole summer schedule from June all the way through Labor Day at least, if not even into September sometimes, because in the Northwest our summer doesn't end when school starts. A lot of people still do things on those weekends after school has started. And I'd say, get out your calendar, check it off. If you're going to be out of town, let us know so we have plenty of time to reschedule. And if something comes up, give us as much notice as you can so we can try to find somebody to fill in. And there'd still be plenty of weeks where you'd be planning and counting on someone and not find out until the day of, oh yeah, we're not going to be there.
Yeah. So. Well, and the reliability of volunteers is always a challenge, and it's not taking away. I'm a volunteer in a lot of respects. I try to be reliable, but I'm not always as reliable as I should be, and I'm really interested in how all these different kind of factors that we're experiencing right now are going to play into worship team participation over this next period of time. My church and your church may be exceptions, but I think about things like, hey, people are getting vaccinated and they're going camping. And I know that we booked 3 different camping trips basically as soon as we knew, hey, we could do it. And it was hard to find any place to go because they're all booked up. Right. I also know that for some people, there's this longing to be back physically in church where they haven't been able to. So will that mean that there's an offset? The people going camping are going to be offset by the people who are really hankering to be there in person. And how do we prepare for that? I think we're going to have to be very nimble. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, so our 18th wedding anniversary was last Monday, so a week ago on Memorial Day. And we on that day, we decided we wanted to go, I proposed at Multnomah Falls. And so we wanted to go to Multnomah Falls, hadn't been there since the pandemic had shut everything down. Yeah. And so we went back out there, and my wife has been working out a lot, so she's in really good shape at the moment. And we thought, well, let's go up to the bridge, and then when we got there, well, you want to keep going? We'll see if we can make it to the top. And so we hiked all the way to the top, but there were tons of people there, as you might expect. But what really surprised us was, every rest area. It was the end of Memorial Day, so people were on their way back to town to get ready for the work week. Every rest area was packed. There was a line out on the freeway for all the rest areas, of people waiting to get in to use the rest stop. All the 84 was just jammed, basically from almost 205 all the way out past Multnomah Falls, until almost to the Bridge of the Gods, which is like 30 miles just of stopped traffic. And we saw the same thing coming down from Vancouver. So we took the Washington side home, and there was just tons of traffic there. I mean, so there was already on Memorial Day weekend just a huge exodus. And of course, it was a super nice weekend weather-wise. But
sure was, yeah.
Everywhere you could see, that you could do outdoor recreation was jam-packed full of people doing outdoor recreation. So I think that's probably indicative of what's going to happen this summer. I've been saying it for a while. Like, I think we're going to see the biggest exodus this summer from church and life in general that we've never seen, because people are just ready to get out.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, we were gone this weekend. We drove up to Yakima, Washington, and we were fortunate that we didn't experience a lot of that. But also, it wasn't as nice a weekend. It wasn't Memorial Day.
Right.
But there was definitely a sense of people the people with whom we engaged were just like, hey, this almost feels like life.
Mm-hmm.
This feels very similar to what things were like pre-pandemic.
Right.
And that, the way I tend to depict it is, if you're pushing on a door trying to get through that door, and somebody's pushing back and keeping it closed, at the point where that person lets go of the door, you just charge on through all your momentum. And I feel like that's how people are feeling about getting back into what's some degree of normalcy. Mm-hmm. Is like, we've been holding ourselves back, and now we're just going. So I hope people show up, and they will. But I also hope that the volunteers show up.
Right.
And that they are there for you. My goal for the summer is to actually inspect my equipment, make sure that things are set up the way I wanted them. They had been set up pre-pandemic, because we kind of tore it apart when the pandemic started to support going online, because I really want to get my full worship team back up there and playing again, and to get that going. But that's going to be a good day of running cables, checking cables, setting levels. And that's a goal for me, is between now and really when it reconvenes around Labor Day, that we're ready to receive all those people coming back from their vacations and camping and time off.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good summer goal. I think for anyone that's listening that's a worship leader, if you haven't done your worship schedules, if you do a schedule, probably now is the time to do that and get the word out and start communicating as much as you possibly can. I'm not a particularly administrative person, but a lot of headaches are solved when we just do a little bit of administration as worship leaders, even though that's not typically how a lot of creatives work. But it would probably behoove us a little bit to spend some time, maybe this week, even just trying to get a schedule out and get people on the calendar and get them to block out those days and to plan around it and that kind of a thing. But yeah, there probably are some really good intentional things we can do this summer. I think we've probably got some flexibility that we wouldn't have had pre-pandemic in the summer months, where we may have weeks that where we don't have people, and maybe even ourselves aren't available, and there's no one who can come in and fill in for us, and we might be able to do some video, or like you were talking about, being set up a few weeks ago to do it remotely, do it from the campsite or something, stream in and do that.
Right. That's, by the way, that's hard, but we're still figuring it out. What I did this past weekend is I pre-recorded my worship set and just we uploaded it and then just plugged it into the service at the appropriate time. I still haven't checked back in to find out how that went.
Right.
But I did spend probably about 45 minutes to an hour on Sunday morning on the phone with the church, talking them through the settings and how do we make sure that the elements show up. And I expect that it went as smoothly as one might believe it would, right? And there with a lot of room for improvement with that. But I think that flexibility, lean into that flexibility and creativity that muscle we've been flexing for the past 15 months during the pandemic.
Right.
Say, hey, well, how can we kind of bring this in? I think worship itself is more challenging remotely because you're dealing with the audio, the video, and the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the sermon, not to take anything away from you or your fellow pastors, you may not be able to bring in the scriptures if that was something you normally shared. But if you're teaching and we can see you, that covers 95+% of what
Right.
you're trying to accomplish there.
We're actually not doing a sermon for the summer, all summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're part of that. People are just in general exhausted, I think, mentally drained, fatigued in about every possible way.
Yeah.
And so, I could do sermons. I'm tired. I'm drained. I need a break too. But I could still keep pounding out the sermon. But I think it's at best going to fall on deaf ears because people are just don't have the bandwidth to think about, okay, so how do I apply this principle to my life in the coming week? I just don't think people are there. And that's the positive end. On the negative end, I think it could become possibly detrimental at least in our environment, for someone who really feels like they should be trying to apply the truth, but they're just they're burnt out in so many ways.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're doing some Bible reading. We're going to read through the rest of the book of Luke, and just have some chunks for every day that people are going to read. I'm pre-recording those for people if they want to listen to a 2-minute and 20-second scripture reading, and then we're going to invite one person up each week and just talk about what they learned in the past week, and just try to really simplify it so that it's not being a burden to anyone, but hopefully summer can be kind of a break, a rest.
Yeah. Giving people an opportunity to process. And I read this about children as well, our young people, as they are entering summer, there's a tendency to play catch up. Like, what are all the things that we didn't do over the past year? Did we fall behind in math or language arts or whatever, or, and trying to cram all those things in, and professionals saying, mental health professionals saying things like, don't. Right? Just give them the space to process this.
Yeah.
If they're really interested in something, give them that. So I really
Right.
appreciate that you're, as a church, have made a decision to provide that space for people to process. We will do usually, like, if there's a Sunday if there's a month with 5 Sundays, that 5th Sunday will be what we call Worship Sunday, and it'll just be, pastor has that Sunday off. I prepare a 12 or 13 song worship set, usually around some theme with some devotional elements to it, and I think that is something maybe to think about, even for my church during the summer, to say let's just plan on a Sunday that's each month. Let's have a worship Sunday, because one Sunday I don't plan on being there at all because I'll be camping, at Mount St. Helens or
Right.
something like that, wherever I can find a campsite.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think people need to breathe a little bit this summer. I think if we want to try to get back into some kind of normal in the fall, or some kind of routine in the fall, I think we need a break before that. We need to recover and heal a little from all the stress and strain of the last year and a half. If we're ever gonna get back to normal, I think we need to breathe.
Yeah,
So.
I think that's a wonderful statement and sentiment there. Let's get back into routines. Let's recover, and hopefully, come back after Labor Day, rejuvenated, ready to engage, and hopefully things are, for the most part, normal.
Right.
Whatever normal is, but certainly not extreme.
Right.
Having adopted a normal, hopefully kids are all back in school. We're all, those who want to be vaccinated are vaccinated, and I'm working at home by myself without everybody here with me. That's definitely on my list.
Right. Well, I think that's our time. It's 10:25, so we're going to have to wrap this up.
All right, last question. This is kind of a random one. With the first, I want you to think. The first song that comes to your head when you think of 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, it'd be not quite 20 years ago, but like "Here I Am to Worship."
Oh yeah, sure. 2003, I think.
Yeah.
Tim Hughes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of "Blessed Be Your Name."
Yeah.
That's the first thing that popped into my head, and those are songs that still pop up.
Yeah.
You know, they still have some legs to them, which I think is interesting.
I was actually thinking of "Here I Am to Worship" just yesterday. I think I was on the way to church and just kind of singing through it in my head, and like. I mean, especially for its time, I think the song still stands as a really well-written song. One of the things I appreciate it now in retrospect, because the bridge does have a jump in it, but it's not a full octave jump, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's just like a third. I can't remember, a third or a fourth or something like that, maybe a fifth at the most. So it jumps up, so you get the emotion and the energy, but it's not such a huge jump that it's unreachable and unattainable for an average vocalist to sing. And so I was thinking that was a really well written song, really, powerful song. I think that we could probably revive a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Think about that, folks, as you're listening. What's a song from 20 years ago that you think you could revive, if you haven't already, that would really resonate with your church? Yeah. Well written and on the verge of being forgotten. Think about that. I'd love to hear what people have to share with us on that.
And that one, and both of those, "Blessed Be Your Name" and "Here I Am to Worship." The problem was they were good, but we overdid them.
That's right.
We sang them like hundreds of thousands of times, I think. So everyone just got super tired of it, and then was like, "Okay, we're going to put that out of our sight for at least a decade." But now I think it's probably time to start bringing some of those back.
Good idea. All right. That having been said, thank you, folks, for joining us for episode 228, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode, hopefully full length this time. And enjoy your shopping. Be safe. Drive the speed limit. If not, get out of the fast lane. All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us once again on the Worship Ministry Catalyst podcast.
And make sure to add your voice to the conversation. You can find us at twitter.com/WMCatalyst.
On Facebook at facebook.com/Worship Ministry Catalyst.
Or head over to worshipministrycatalyst.com and drop us a note.